He visited the tomb of the unknown soldier and, as you mentioned there in his speech, made mention of those recent deaths in Afghanistan.
He did indeed, and I'll use this opportunity to bring in Geoff Garrett. He's the chief of the US Studies Centre in Sydney, and Geoffrey Garrett, looking at those pictures of the War Memorial, it signifies just how much America does appreciate Australia's involvement in not just Afghanistan, but a lot of previous conflicts.
Yeah, and the President in his speech, when he was talking about common values and common history between the two countries, brought up the fact that the US and Australia have fought in every major war since World War I side by side. I mean, this is incredible history. I thought the most interesting thing about the speech actually was that it began with that shared values and interest between the two countries, but then went very global or very Asia-Pacific very quickly. No detail in this speech about what those troop rotations in the top end are going to look like. Maybe that's what the President is going to talk about this afternoon in Darwin.
And of course, after this, Joe, the President does, as Lyndall mentioned, go back via the so-called Beast, the presidential limousine, back to Air Force One, which is still waiting on the tarmac of Canberra's Fairburn Air Base. He is going to Darwin to, as Geoff Garrett said, probably give more details of that US military tie-up deal, because of course the Northern Territory basically is the front end of that alliance at the moment. There are lots of existing exercises between Australian and US troops.
Yeah, Michael, we've just got a graphic up there at the moment showing that the Robertson Barracks seems to be, and it's just on the outskirts of Darwin, so it's where basically the 2,500 Marines, when it gets up to that figure, not till 2017, I think it's 250 next year, they'll be based there, but doing exercises at the Mount Bundy and Bradshaw training areas. I think the Delamere is an Air Force base, or I stand to be corrected on that. But yeah, we've been speaking to the Darwin Mayor, and they're pretty excited about the economic opportunities up there in relation to that, and having 2,500 more mouths to feed and soldiers to entertain.
And bars to drink at and all of that. You know how it goes. And we also spoke on News Breakfast to the Northern Territory's Chief Minister, Paul Henderson, who made the similar point that the Territory is troop-friendly, be it Australian or American. And Geoff Garrett, that's fair to say that we will see a much greater cooperation between the two militaries. And importantly, as part of this deal, we are going to see US Marines train independently on the ground there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought another interesting thing in the parliamentary set pieces this morning was that Tony Abbott wanted to one-up the government. He said, yes, having American troops at Australian bases was great, but if he was Prime Minister, maybe he'd ask the US if they were interested in a joint facility, something like another Pine Gap kind of facility in the top end.
And Joe, of course, the President is going to use the occasion of his visit to Darwin to pay tribute to American soldiers who've died, in particular in World War II, fighting alongside Australians. Particular symbolic relevance because he is going just short of the 70th anniversary of the Japanese bombing of Darwin in 1942. That happened, of course, just months before the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which, of course, ushered the Americans into World War II.
Yeah, and the people of Darwin are always keen to point out that the rest of Australia doesn't necessarily know about how significant that challenge was for them during World War II. OK, well, after being there since about 5 o'clock this morning, I think you can stand down now. Michael Rowland and Geoffrey Garrett, thanks very much as well.